We're live.
Hi.
Hello. So Tierra's coming on. She was on, but she's coming. So welcome everybody, whoever's listening. I'm Rosjke Hasseldine. I'm founder and director of Mother-Daughter Coaching International, where we, where we provide professional mother-daughter relationship or mother-daughter attachment training for therapists and coaches. We also provide online courses for mothers and daughters, and a Find a Coach page for if you need help with your mother-daughter relationship. You go to motherdaughtercoach.com and the Find a Coach page, and there the graduates, the certified graduates of our program are listed in the country that they live in. So you can get the help you need in wherever you are in the world. So, and I want to say a really great welcome to Deborah here. She has just finished the course. So welcome, Deborah. Just introduce yourself.
My name's Deborah Zavos. I live outside of Washington, D.C. I'm a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker. I've been a social worker since 1987, so a very long time.
You and I have been around the block a few times.
Which lets you know you're never too old to continue learning.
True. Absolutely.
Never too old.
Yeah. And even though I teach the course, I learn something every time.
Mm.
Every time I learn something, I see something from a different angle, or, one of the students say something, I think, now I see more of a connection. It's yeah. So even if you're a student or a teacher, you're still learning. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you want me to talk a little bit about my experience?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So as I said, I've been a clinician since 1987. I've worked in schools. I've worked in a nonprofit. I've been a clinical director. So I have a lot of hours behind me, both of working with clients and of training, because as you social workers out there know, we need 40 hours every 2 years. So that's a lot of hours. I've done a lot of trainings, a lot. And I have to say, this training was really one of the most significant trainings I've ever done. Yeah. Yeah. Not just professionally, but personally also.
Yeah.
So the professional piece, I think what I so appreciate is that this model is seen through a wider lens of patriarchy.
Yes.
Absolutely, right?
And it's like, how can you not see the mother-daughter relationship? It's the air we breathe. It's the day-to-day experience. It's the atmosphere we soak in. It's how we're treated. Yeah.
It's everything. And I have not been in a training that took such a deep dive. And it literally, the glasses that we're wearing in looking at the relationship between mothers and daughters.
Yeah.
And as I said, I've done a lot of trainings, and I'm a daughter and I'm a mother.
Yeah.
And this training has completely shifted how I see that relationship now.
Wow. I'm going to get teary in a minute. That's exactly what I hope for. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think there's this, the one piece that was such a deep learning is the patriarchy of mother blaming.
Yes. And the thing is, we need to toot this horn loudly, because it is getting worse. And in a sense, some of our training is through the patriarchal mother blaming lens already. But within social media today, it's just getting worse.
And what I really like, Rosjke, that you do is we have the lessons, but we also have papers that we're reading. So current thinking about all of these different pieces.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really like in thinking about mother blaming, looking at who was studying mothers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was white men studying mothers.
Exactly.
Their own interpretation of being a mother.
Exactly. And many of these men, and they're often, well, John Bowlby would talk a lot about that, 1940s, 50s, 60s, they're men of their generation. I suspect they didn't change a diaper ever. Or, and actually had hands-on caregiving, because men in that generation didn't. But again, we're seeing women through the eyes of men, through their internalized perception or their learned patriarchal idea, rather than seeing women from behind their own eyes.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to identify white men.
Yeah. They're all white men. Yes.
Exactly. That Eurocentric,
yep.
Heterogeneous,
whatever the word is. Yeah. But I know what you're talking about. They're white European men.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the model. And that's the model that patriarchy puts its hat on.
Yes.
And that we've all had to swallow the Kool-Aid because it is everywhere.
Yes. And actually, I was writing about this because I'm sort of trying to get a book written very slowly, might I add. So don't hold your breath. This isn't going to come out in a while. But as I was writing, I realized actually patriarchy uses it to justify its own means, its own belief system. So in a sense, I think, like if you're talking about detachment theory and sort of Joan Bowlby, this sort of obsession with the view that the mother must be the caregiver, and without any understanding of the context in which the mother is mothering, her needs as a person. And we talk a lot about, the first solution is mothers of people first, and what her needs are, and the dynamics within the family, and generationally. But in a sense, so that concept that the cultural female self, that mothers are the caregivers, is just grabbed by patriarchy in order to then blame mothers and to continually blame mothers for whatever might be whatever happening for the child, because it's all on her shoulders, and as if she doesn't have a sense of herself. And nobody's responsible for her either. That's the thing. She is responsible for everyone, but nobody's responsible for her. And woe betide if she does anything for herself.
And you see that now. I mean, you see that now. I mean, it's kind of women, who are in heterosexual relationships. They are the thinkers of the household. They are the brains and then the partner goes off and does whatever is needed, hopefully, but they're the thinkers of everything.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've had many conversations with my partner. Hi, Tierra.
Hi.
We got it going. Yeah. So we'll just pause that. We're having a great conversation here. We'll just pause it. See that Tierra is in charge of MDCI's social media. So do you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll
Sure.
We're talking about mother blaming, by the way.
So perfect. Sure. So I am Tierra Banks, like Rosjke said. I am in charge of MDCI's social media. I'm also a mother-daughter coach. I have a mother-daughter coaching practice and nonprofit called Mended Inc., where my focus is to mend the broken relationships between mothers and daughters. And I've been with MDCI since 2020. The other day I thought it was 2021, and I went back and looked, and it was 2020.
Well,
So I want to correct that.
but you've been around a bit longer than that. Yes.
Yes, I wanted to correct that.
We should we should give certificates for long, the length.
Yes.
We should. Often, this is completely on its side, so I'm going off at a tangent here, but often you see organizations that give certificates and, awards.
Mm-hmm.
And women, I think, struggle to get those. And in the counseling, too, I think, because it is, even though it's female dominated, who gets.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm going to think about. We need to give awards.
Yes, let's think more about that. That would be awesome.
Yes, on the to-do list. Anyway, back to mother blaming. So, we were talking about how patriarchy, in a sense, uses, say, attachment theory, and that's some of the things we talk about in the course, in a sense, to justify the way that mothers are seen to be the caregivers for everyone. And as Deborah, you were saying that, mothers are the ones that are often thinking and running the household.
You brought up culture female service. I mean, I had never heard that term before. You coined that term.
Yes.
I think that it's such an important concept, and so many women are in that role, but we didn't have a name for it.
And we don't actually see it because it's so normalized. We don't see it as a role. We see it as this is just, actually, it's like a fish doesn't recognize water because there is nothing outside of it. And in a sense, I think cultural female service is similar. We don't see that it's a role, that there is actually a potential reality, a much needed reality outside of it. Where we're not always in service to everybody else, but we're actually also in service to ourselves. And we are people with needs and a voice and rights of our own.
I mean, it's funny to talk about having an award. Women, we're very comfortable with praising others, but to actually get something for ourselves is a unique experience.
And a very uncomfortable experience. And I'm speaking for myself now. I am so good at seeing the greatness in others. I have to work at seeing the greatness in myself. I really have to work at that. And if people mirror it back, that's like, you can, which is patriarchy.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I was literally just having a conversation with one of my mentors right before, and he's actually a male, but earlier he gave me a compliment. He said that you are such a terrific communicator. And it was so hard to receive that compliment, because it's something that I strive to be, but it's also something that you're often ridiculed about, like, because again, the whole neediness, like, so I associate with me communicating as, always expressing my needs. And then and then again, in this patriarchal society that we live in, like, people will just say, oh, she's so needy. She's always saying, so it was really hard for me to receive that compliment, where I had to go back in like 3 times. Like, did you mean that? Like, can you explain what you meant by it? So I love that, that you just talked about that, Deborah, how, it's easy for us to get, to see the greatness in others and give other people their flowers and their rewards, but it's hard for us to receive them. And then separate from that also, why I think the award idea is awesome, because we hardly ever get awards for it, with it not being what we've done for other people. Like, it's a badge of honor, as a woman or a mother, to receive an award for how sacrificial you've been. Like, she gave her entire life, she gave up on all her dreams so that her children could succeed, or so that her husband could bloom or blossom. And, and we wear that as a badge of honor, but rarely are we honored, for really actualizing our dreams or fighting for our dreams, or, actually seeing ourselves as people. Like we aren't awarded for those types of things outside of Mother's Day, maybe.
Exactly. And that is the culture of female service.
Yes.
I think there's another term that you also coined, Rosjke, what is soft eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I think that piece about, what you're saying, Tierra, it's like you can almost kind of condemn yourself for not being able to take in compliments and to be able to be a receiver versus a giver. And I think this soft eyes is about compassion, and that we not only need to have soft eyes for our mothers, but soft eyes for ourselves, because we are within the system.
I agree. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Soft eyes
Yes.
for ourselves and for our mothers and our daughters to and in a sense to understand that actually we all are doing our best. We have very limited resources, but resources may not just be financially or practical. They may be emotional resources, which fits with you're doing a great job. What do you need? Those are emotional resources where you're seen for who you are and this kind of emotional support or practical support you need.
Absolutely.
We don't measure up to an external standard that's expected of us, of always being infinitely available to everybody else, especially as a mother.
Yes. 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 And I think it's these coins that we're talking about, like the soft eyes, and the female cultural service, that really sets MDCI apart from, other frameworks around the mother-daughter relationship. And it's one of those benefits that you get from being a part of the community and taking the course, because now, again, it helps us to, have a language, when we're helping our clients, when we're even analyzing our own lives, like, it's easier to be able to identify, like, that's what that is. Like, it's almost like we've gotten these glasses that, like, we can suddenly see what was there all along, but now we're able to put a name to it. And that does put us in a position, to help other women. Like, you can come out of female culture service. You can, I invite you to see her with soft eyes. Like, I can explain to you the benefit of that. Seeing her with soft eyes, giving her that, where it's another coin that won't represent that emotion fully, or that experience fully, just didn't do it justice. So that's definitely something I really appreciate about this framework, Rosjke, like the language that it gives us, that it puts behind the work that we do and the things that we saw all along. We've seen these things all along, but we did not have the words to say
and without
what it was.
How do you? And what you're saying there, Tierra, too, is the old adage, like, you can't take your clients where you haven't been.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is the focus of this course too, though it isn't designed for, it is inevitable that you will learn about your own mother-daughter relationship. And the next course is the facilitating women's power circles, which is, very much you can't not be changed through.
No, because it's such a personal journey. It's such a personal journey that you really invite others on. The deeper you get into, the journey, it's easier to invite others on. Like it becomes natural.
Yeah. And I think you keep the cohort small so that you can have that personal journey. So you do have that space to share about yourself and what you're learning. It's very different than a lot of trainings where they just want to pack people in, But you're very intentional about wanting people to have that personal experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's very important. The classes are very small, which is why April's now full, and we're so booking in for October. But to me, it's how I want to teach too. I couldn't teach and do justice to the material and do justice to myself and do justice to the students. It feels like even, like 20, 50, 20 students in there. I don't know how I'd do it, quite frankly. I'm missing it because also I want to get to know you. I want to get to you. So therefore, because if you're going to be certified, you're going to be part of our community. So I want to get to know you and understand part of your journey, and not only, as working with mothers and daughters, but who you are. So, which again mirrors, like, you are a person. Daughters, we're not just therapists or coaches, we're also people.
And it doesn't stop there with the small class sizes either. Like, you can see it in the very thread of MDCI, like everything you do, every time we meet, whether it's a faculty meeting, whether it's our annual gathering, whenever we're together, it's you talk to the people first, which is different, from rest of the, your typical training. Like, you address the people first. You're always checking in, you're always, where are you? What are you doing? How are you? Sometimes it can be 25% of our meeting time, is spent with just checking in. And I think that builds such a authentic community. Like Deborah said, we're able, to really see ourselves, and you don't really get that. Like, in most trainings, you don't know, the rooms are so large, you don't know who's there. So you don't know how vulnerable you can be. It's difficult for the helpers to take off their helper's hat, and just kind of be in the moment. But this does give us the space where we can see ourselves as people first, then mothers, then daughters, then professionals. Like, we don't have to be professionals first. Like, literally, our humanity is addressed. And, that within itself is invaluable. Like, it really is.
And I think our humanity is addressed in a liberatory model. I think that's a really important piece. That sort of the language that's used right now, it's really a model of liberation. Yeah.
Yes.
The freedom to be yourself.
A freedom to feel.
And to need and to
yes.
your truth. Like mother-daughter jealousy, or maternal jealousy particularly, we talk about, and we've talked about it in another, we talk about how that's grief, actually. So the underlying, the truth of the experience of that, and why that's there, rather than blaming. And so we talk maladaptive attachment behaviors, which means, for example, why is a mother controlling, or why is a mother emotionally unavailable, rather than just, because a lot of within therapy, it just stops there. Like, oh, your mother was emotionally available. Oh, that's possibly because grandma was emotionally available. And that's the end of the conversation. Well, actually, that's the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
Then you go to, why is that? What's been going on in that family that has created these women to adapt to something, that control is their way of meeting their needs, or to be visible, or being silent was their way of somehow surviving. Because the mother wasn't born controlling, or the grandmother wasn't born silent. Something happened.
Right. Something happened.
That made them behave in whatever way it is, whether it's controlling. Like, my mother was a controlling person. Actually, so this example does fit with my family, and my grandmother was very silent. But neither of them were like that. Something that made them think, that made them adapt to something, and think that this was the way they were going to be heard, or get their needs met.
Yeah, or accepted.
Absolutely.
Or accepted, loved.
Or accepted.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I know within our community, a lot of moms will get women, period, but moms, we get the in the African American community, we're harsh, or we're rough around the edges, or we're angry. But like you said, when you go beyond that, like, what is behind those tough emotions. And it's, like you were able to really pull out of my own mother-daughter map. Like, no, these women haven't been protected. They've had to be the protectors.
Yes.
Like the nurturers in them are suppressed because they've had to protect themselves and their families for so long, So Nefertiri's on. Hi, Nefertiria.
I see that. Hi.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
there is a why, and I love that our work takes our women, ourselves, and our clients beyond the awareness, because the awareness of what is happening, okay, that's fine, that you can identify, that something was wrong. But like you said, without going deeper and finding out why, you cannot stop it. You can't disrupt the cycle. You cannot change the generational bloodline. You can't change the trajectory. Like, you will inevitably repeat it. Like, you will see it in the future generations. Yeah, they'll be aware that this is what their grandmother and their grandmothers did, but they won't. It'll be difficult for them to even see that they're repeating it themselves.
Exactly.
They're doing the same thing because the why has not been revealed. Therefore, it cannot be, disrupted.
Yes. And an example with my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother was quite silent, but my mother flapped about her entire life, taking care of grandma, taking care of her mother, and concentration camps and There's a lot of it, sort of political experiences that they had that you can explain that, but there's way more there, way more there. But I think my sense is that my mom decided like she didn't want to be like her mother, so she goes the other way. But actually, it's just two sides of the same coin. It all came from the same place. And I know that. I need to know where that came from so that I wouldn't then just flip to another way of thinking and therefore repeat the cycle.
Yes.
This is the work that we teach. Yeah. Sorry, Deborah.
This is the work.
And I mean, it comes from mapping. So it's one of the important pieces of this work is looking at generational line, sort of the father, mother, grandmother. And I know that I did a mapping with a client who I had been seeing for a while, and she made this comment, she's always looking for approval. And I asked her, I said, are you willing to do something with me? It's called mapping. She was like, oh, sure. I said, so you're only the third person I've done this with, but we'll see what happens. So we did her mapping and realized that she was the rebel aunt. She was the one who went out of the norm. And because she always thought it was just kind of her. But when we mapped it and saw that she was the line of change and she was the rebel differently, it was this massive aha moment for her. She realized that her desire for approval really came from generations of doing what was expected.
Right.
She had a grandmother who was brilliant. I mean, I say brilliant. Her grandmother literally got her PhD in chemistry, but then had children and was a housewife. And she was the first one to have a career and be successful. And so it was this transformative moment for her to see that it wasn't just her, that this was a much larger conversation. It was a much larger knowing and awareness than just kind of her tunnel vision of this must be my problem.
Right. And also the power in seeing if you're the rebel aunt, and most, I say, or if not most, all of my students are rebel aunt. Rebel aunt is the one that, says, no, there must be a different way. And you don't go into this work if you're not a rebel in some way. But the power in that, to see that you've got an intuition. So it actually brings you back to listening to your own inner wisdom to think, actually, something's wrong here. I need to find a different way.
Mm.
But also, there's consequences to being rebel out. You are criticized for that. There are some families, there are some dire consequences. But to see that as, it's not because of it, to see those consequences also as part of the system rather than your fault, I
Yes,
think is invaluable.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking the rebels are often the black sheep. So you come in as a black sheep, but when you are able to show the rebels who they are, it is empowering because you kind of go from being a victim to a hero in your own story. And it is an acceptance. I know for me, when I'm talking with my clients, when I get to the rebel, it's like this is a assignment that you at some point you decide to accept.
Yes.
We see the women in the families, they run from this because, like what you said, Rosjke, with all of the backlash that comes with it, the loneliness, the ridicule, the ostracizing, the judgment. Sometimes you're cast out, like like you're misunderstood, which is what we always say, like you can't feel loved if you don't feel heard or understood. And
Yeah.
often our rebels are misunderstood and they feel invisible, and those things do come with that. But it's like, once you empower me with the knowledge that I have the power to change everything after me, I can possibly change those who are still here, but most certainly I can change everyone who comes after me. It makes the journey worth it.
Yes.
It does make it bigger than yourself. And then quite honestly, sometimes you get more buy-in that way. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm glad to know I'm not doing this in vain, because it feels just arduous when you feel like I'm doing all of this and I'm getting all this rebuke. And what am I gaining? In
Yeah.
the end, what will I be? What will I have? But to know that all the women after you will appreciate your sacrifice that way, you disrupting and changing the cycles. Like, that aha moment is priceless in our work. Like, it really is priceless.
It puts meaning to it. And that's the other thing.
Absolutely.
You cannot do this work. Doing this work means that you are a disruptor. You are a generational change facilitator, because even if you're working individually with a mother or daughter or a couple, the work will inevitably change the experience of what it means to be female in that family for the next and the next and the next. Yeah.
Oh, it's like it's going to bubble into a lake.
Yes.
Yes.
It ripples out.
It ripples
Yeah.
out.
Absolutely.
You started doing this work for your daughter, correct?
Oh, yeah, over 30 years ago when she was born. That's when I had my aha moment. I thought, and it started for, like, I needed to understand what was going on between my mother and I, and what had been going on for women, so that our relationship, my relationship with my daughter would be different and her life would be different. But very quickly I thought, it just became, I knew in my bones I needed to do this. Yeah.
You accepted the assignment also.
I know. And it's like,
You could have run forever.
it found me rather than I found it, I think.
Yeah, it found you.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I went looking for it. Well, there was, Olivia was born. So, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love, and why I created not only MDCI, not just to pass on the information, but to also create a community, because it is lonely on your own. And we need the support of each other.
Yes, we do.
Which is very antithetical to patriarchy.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Patriarchy gets very, very scared and anxious and angry with women banding together, meaning, which is what, it's a divide and rule with the mother-daughter relationship. Get them in conflict with each other, and they're not changing a thing, are they? So, yeah. So, yeah.
Yes, but get them together. The power, when you get them together, when the mother and the daughter is, on one accord, like when they have an understanding of what's happened, happening between them and the powers that be,
Yeah.
that really the real cause of their conflict, it's a powerful vehicle that can move mountains. It really can.
So I'm just wondering, because how long we've been talking for a while.
I know it's 7:35.
Yeah, if there's any questions,
I don't see any questions.
I don't,
I can see the chat.
yeah, no,
I
there's
don't.
no questions. So, well, we could wrap it up, shall we?
Yeah, we can, but if there is anyone watching and you have a question about the
Questions.
course, if you have a question about the mother-daughter relationship, like now is your time, feel comfortable. Nefertari says she is excited to start. We are excited to have you. But if
Absolutely.
you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll try to get them answered. We're going to begin to wrap up our conversation in the next couple of minutes. And of course, we'll be back on soon. But in the meantime, you can always, get connected to Mother Daughter Coaching International. You can follow us here on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and then also check out the website, which I will put in the chat now. You can subscribe to the newsletter. Rosjke writes wonderful, wonderful articles and blogs that you can get connected to. So, the possibilities are endless. The information is available, and the community is waiting for you to join.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's therapists waiting to if you need help.
Absolutely.
Also, I mean, on the website motherdaughtercoach.com, there's articles, there's YouTube videos, and have a look at what our graduates are doing. There's there's a lot of us now putting our own, putting their stuff out.
Yes.
Right. I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, different countries.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what
Mhm.
we do. That's one of the things we talk about in a sense, and actually that's the other thing I love. Most of my students do come from different.
Mhm.
And then the next course is actually quite international, which is fantastic. So you
Mhm.
get a lens from what it means to be mother-daughter in different, and we learn from each other. And I learn
Mhm.
what it might be like to be a mother-daughter in a different country. But underneath it all, underneath the cultural and the country differences, there are still the themes of patriarchy and of violence
Absolutely.
and of
Absolutely.
and of emotional silence, which is what we talk about a lot.
Now we have a comment. We have Luzette. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry. She said, "Hi, ladies. You've been telling my story." And then she also added another comment down below. It says, "I have no counseling background, but have very unsatisfactory experiences with family counseling."
Yeah, sorry
And
to hear
so,
that.
Luzette, we're sorry. We're sorry to hear that. And she said, "I'm interested in the coaching aspect of the program." Now, if you could clarify if you're interested in receiving coaching or joining the community as a coach.
In order to apply for the training, you need to either have
A back.
a counseling uh, qualification or a coaching qualification, or psychology, social work.
Mhm.
So if you don't have a coaching qualification, I would suggest you do one. You can certainly apply for the course in your final year of training, because by that
Okay.
stage you're pretty well getting out the door, ready to set up your practice. So you can add it on there. So because it is a sort of post-grad course.
Absolutely. So Luzette was saying that she was interested in joining as a coach. So the steps that Rosjke just gave would apply to you, Luzette, if you don't currently have your coaching certification or credential or does not have a counseling background. We just suggest that be a starting point for you, and in your final year, you can apply for the mother-daughter attachment course. And in the meantime, just please familiarize yourself with Rosjke's work. Her book, The Mother-Daughter Puzzle, which she does not talk enough about to me, is one of my favorite resources, to recommend a shared reading for moms and daughters, or any woman really who is just interested, in embarking on that mother-daughter healing journey. It explains the concepts really well, and it will prepare you, for what's to come in the course when you are prepared to take it. So we look forward to seeing you in the community soon.
And just to let you know, so the Association for Coaching, International Coaching Federation, and the other one slips my mind. So have a look at the big, and the Association for Coaching as MDCI as an organizational member. So I would start there and look at there's about 3 biggies.
And she says she does have both your books.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect.
This is exactly what we started talking about at the start, Deborah, isn't it? How we don't toot our own horn, but we'll toot everybody else's. Which is great, but yeah. Oh, I know. I hold my hand up to it. I'm exactly.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Wonderful to spend time with you. I am so honored that you are part of MDCI. Yeah.
So grateful.
Yeah. Well,
me as well. Like, it is an honor to be here.
Right back.
Co-laboring, learning.
Yeah.
You know, living and thriving and breaking free from patriarchy, right?
There you go.
Deborah, when we first met, when the first time, oh my goodness, this one was a kindred spirit. And same with, I have exactly the same with you, Tierra. Are you like you just know, don't you? Yeah.
Yes. And thank you. Thanks for embracing me, because I definitely feel the same. And you know, Rosjke, when I first came, you know, Deborah, I was like, I feel like I found my tribe. Like, I just kind of felt like I just had never been, you know, in company of so many women that was literally on the same mission. Like, you know, you, like you said, this work is lonely. You tell everybody you do mother-daughter work and they're like, oh, God bless you. What made you want to do that? Or, whoa. And you're like, you know, trying to hold the torch up on your own, you know, can get lonesome. So it just felt so good to just see co-laborers in the field. Like, wow, there are other people who love this relationship just as much as I do.
I love that. Co-laborers. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Luzette and Nefertari said she'll see you Wednesday. And Luzette said, thank you all. The work is so important. Thank you so much for finding value in the work. And we look forward to you being a partner in the work. Good. And thank you all for tuning in. And if you're catching this on the replay, hope you enjoy. Feel free to leave comments so that we can come back and, you know, just see what feedback. And if there's some topics that you'd love to see us go live about, like, feel free to drop those in the chat and we will, you know, take that into consideration and, you know, possibly discuss it on a future chat.
Yeah. Or email us, you know, motherdaughtercoach.com is a comment boxy thing, you know, message. Okay. Just email us. We'll get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any last words, ladies, before we wrap up?
The one thing I want to say is do not underestimate the power of the mother-daughter relationship, and do not underestimate a bunch of women, because at the moment we are all women, passionate about the mother-daughter relationship.
It's true.
Never underestimate them. I mean, the amount of power there is there. Yeah. Yeah, we can do a lot.
I concur. I concur.
Thank you. I shall end the broadcast.
You can. Yes. All righty.
We can stay on if you want, but I'll just end the broadcast. Thank you. Okay. Thanks everybody for listening.
All right. See you, everybody.